Welcome to another video of Shushoku Cafe. So I am here, actually it's a special edition just like the previous video. Takeshi-san and I are in the same place in Michigan, so we decided to record some videos together. So Takeshi-san is from Quick USA, and I am founder of Ikigai Connections, and we have a special guest here today. So Doc, why don't you introduce yourself real quick?
Yes, hello. I'm Doc Kane. I live in Hikone here in Japan. I'm co-founder of Maple. We teach intermediate and advanced Japanese using a story. It's fun. Come say hello.
Great. And today we're going to talk about entrepreneurship. So,
Yeah.
どう思いますか?
So I know recruiting company. Of course, we support for a candidate to work in Japanese company, but I feel like working in Japanese company is not only option to be connected to Japan, like Japan related things. And one of the option is I always think about entrepreneurship is one of the option, and it might be suitable for you and for other candidates as well. And I don't have many experience about it, so maybe today I want to ask both of you as entrepreneurs, you starting your own businesses. So I have some question. But first of all, what is entrepreneurship? What is like a pros and cons about entrepreneurship? I want to ask for that. Can you start, Chris?
Sure. So entrepreneurship is a really fancy word that means you are starting your own business or maybe even freelancing. I believe that also kind of falls into that category where you are kind of, promoting, selling a product or a service. And a lot of times you're doing it on your own or with a small group of people to help create it, to help sell it, promote it. And there's a lot of things that come to play. Now, I know that, some people hear about startups and there's something like venture capital. And when I first started my company, Ikigai Connections, I remember receiving a lot of information from these venture capitalists that wanted to give me all this money. And I was like, well, this is kind of crazy. But, with venture capitalism or with that kind of like big money coming in, that tends to be something, in my opinion, and I'm going to hear Doc's story afterwards. I think that's more for, a product or a service that wants to reach a lot of people as quickly as possible with a lot of money. And also the people who are kind of funding it, they're going to become decision makers. So I decided, because I have a very particular idea about sharing Japanese jobs with others who love Japanese language and culture in the US, and I focused on that market specifically because if I was going to focus on the whole world, it's a little too much up front at first. So I decided to do something called bootstrapping. I did it on my own, with my own money, at my own pace. Not a lot of people can afford that. It really depends on how much time you have. Can you afford to, get a website, start creating things, products, or services? I actually had a little bit of savings. I decided to put it towards my crazy idea. And now it's almost 7 years old, and I've been bochi very slowly working on my business as creating services, updating 2 websites, promoting it on social media, and working with part-time contractors every once in a while on particular projects. So it's a lot of work that goes into it. And I want to inspire anybody out there, if you have an idea, whether you're working full-time and want to experiment with the idea, or maybe you're not working and you want to start out maybe freelancing and looking on Upwork or freelancer.com or any of these other sites to get a feel for what it's like to do the work as well as promote your services, be your own accountant, et cetera, there's a lot of opportunities out there. The sky is the limit, but realize that it does have pros and cons to each side. And it's not always easy. And you may hear stories of people who got rich overnight. I'm not sure that really is very possible if you're doing it the right way. So if you try hard and you are in it for the long run, you have to give yourself the opportunity to go after your dream. So that's kind of my overview on what I think it is. But Doc, did I miss anything? What are your thoughts? Because you have some great experience as well, which I'm sure we'll get into another question later.
Yeah, no, I agree totally. I'm surprised to hear that VC were chasing you down in the early days. That's a wonderful compliment, and you were smart to, I think, say no to that as well. Yeah, venture capital money is generally. I have a friend named DC Palter who is a VC, and he is very big on making it clear to kind of smaller entrepreneurs that most times it's not something you want to touch if you're not going to be able to turn around like millions and millions of dollars very quickly. I think he talks like hundreds of millions of dollars. Then it's something you shouldn't even touch really. And you do surrender a lot of say in your company, as you suggested. Many times the investors' ideas to just kind of bring you up in revenue and then buy you out anyway. So that happens too. I think for most people who just kind of want to work for themselves as opposed to an employer, starting out small and busting your rear end and trying this and that and the other thing is really the only way to do it. And a lot of entrepreneurs are creative people who have a kind of idea for a service-oriented business. In a way, that's what both of you and I are doing, even though we have a product at the same time. But service-oriented freelancing or entrepreneurship, it's easy to start. You can do it when you already have a position somewhere. Sometimes in companies, if you live in the US in particular, you can build your entrepreneurial kind of momentum inside a company you already work at, right? So that's called intrapreneurship if you're a younger person not familiar with some of these terms. You kind of get a feel for what it might look like where you already work. And then if it works, you leave and do your own thing. And then you take your first client who's your former boss or whatever, and you do it that way. And many people run businesses that start that way. I will add to your comment about many people will see, especially on LinkedIn these days, buy my thing and I'll show you how to make a gazillion dollars because I did it. Yeah, they made it a gazillion dollars selling the next sucker about the opportunity to make it a gazillion dollars selling the gazillion. It's like this pyramid scheme from hell, basically. And doing it right, I interpret it as doing it ethically. There's lots of things that you could do to make money quickly, certain ways you can advertise, et cetera, et cetera. But basically doing things right and believing in yourself and having calls in the middle of the night with people. The day never ends when you run your own business, but it's fun. And I would do nothing else, really. I'd rather work 80 hours a week if I had to for myself than somebody else. And for a lot less money, usually, for a while in the beginning.
That's a great point. Like when I meet with you both, who is entrepreneur, everybody has first of all, they have one specific idea, like a concept, and the key in the middle, and then that matches for the niche demand, which was missing in the world. So you guys are supporting for somebody who needs some services but can't find the right things for you. And then I think you both have some idea and then believe yourself and trust yourself and then doing. So that's why, as you said, you're not doing some scheme, just setting to be a lead, something like that. You, of course, there's some different reasons, but you believe yourself and that service is going to provide and fulfill the demands for a lot of people. So I think maybe if somebody wants to start entrepreneurship, maybe talking and for somebody who are already doing entrepreneurship and then share the idea and what you think about it and get the feedback and then more deep and the question why or something like that. I think that might be a good example, to start for the entrepreneurship.
Yeah, for certain. In America, there's a really great group called SCORE. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this. So retired executives, they'll meet with you and you can bounce your ideas off of them and they'll say, no, that's not great, or that's good, and let me introduce you to this person or whatever. I think it's a fairly untapped resource that's just wonderful. And in most cities of any size, really. Here in Japan, there's opportunities. I can talk about some of that if you want me to say a couple things about finding help. Do you want me to do that?
Yeah.
Okay. So I came here in 2017 when it seemed that opportunities to kind of network with new ideas and entrepreneurship was a little sparse. But it seems to really have matured in the last 2 or 3 years a lot. And a lot of kind of incubators and business hubs have been popping up everywhere. You do hear about and read about startups, but it just means new business, really. And you can often call these places up. They're often bilingual to some degree. Sometimes because the city wants to lure entrepreneurship, they bring in other people to team with the city to create a kind of bilingual program, and they have mentors and all this sort of great tools for you if you have ideas. So we relied heavily on the Kobe system in the beginning when we came here, and they were wonderful. We got a mentor just by asking, and they have lots of meetups and all kinds of things where you can bounce ideas off of. They're not so strong, I have found, in my world with partnership arrangement. Like introducing is talked about, but not done so well, I think. And so you got to hustle to kind of do that on your own. Pick up the phone, email, just kind of do outreach on your own. But there are lots of opportunities. And you can do that if you come to teach English here. You have to be careful of visa stuff, but there are opportunities if you play the game correctly and through the right channels to do what's known as like geo arbitrage, where you live in Japan and you have a client who's overseas. So you may be paid, let's say, in US dollars or Australian dollars, but live in Japan at a much lower price point. It's a great way to add a little bit of client income to a very low, let's say, eikaiwa salary, and start up an entrepreneurial business that way. If you can sell around the world. So I highly recommend people getting into sales and marketing, learning how to call people in Japanese and or English. Lots of opportunities in Japan if you can get here first, and you can do that with relative ease. But don't all come.
Did you have any mentor, or how did you study? Can I ask you, like, how was your story?
And I'm focusing now on the U.S. and Michigan, the county that I live in. They actually have a small business support, department. So they offer like in-person or webinar, in-person meetings or webinars where you can learn about any part of the business starting process and marketing, accounting, taxes, how to even come up with your idea in the first place. And they even give you sheets, like the accounting sheets you're going to have to use. You just have to copy paste and add your own information. So there's a lot of support I received from my county. Like Doc said, the SCORE organization is also really helpful. I haven't personally used it yet, but I see their emails every time they send something. So for me, I started this because I wanted to help my younger Kasha, because when I was looking for a job back in the day, I remember using a website called JapaneseJobs.com. So when I moved back from Japan to the US, I looked it up and I couldn't find it. I'm like, well, that's interesting. And I remembered that for many years. So later on, that's how I decided. It was the seed that was planted X number of years ago. I remember when I started my business. And also in the beginning, I tried a lot of different things. 7 years later, after testing various services and products, I was like, well, that I like, but it's too much for me. It's not my ikigai, for example, or this thing is a little too like out of my league. So for example, I wanted to perhaps get into recruiting. And after trying it out just a little bit, I decided it is an absolute no. I prefer to collaborate with recruiters because together we work together better and collaborate. Collaborations are key for entrepreneurs. Also, I will mention that other people that I've seen before who have started businesses, I started following them on social media, going to their websites, seeing how they built their websites, seeing what they've been doing, how they do outreach on social media or in person. They were my mentors that maybe they didn't know it at the time. And maybe I reached out to a few of them, but I especially looked up to female entrepreneurs, specifically solopreneurs, because I wanted to know how were they doing it while juggling family, personal life, other stuff as well. So it was just, there's a lot out there if you want to go out there and see and brainstorm and think about what you can do. But think about your skills. And like Takeshi-san said, niche, I think, is very good, because if you are super broad about a topic, I'm going to offer X service and it affects everybody in the whole world, it's not particular and specific enough to kind of gain interest. So if you are really interested, like Doc, you focus on intermediate and advanced learners of Japanese. That's very specific, and you use literature to teach them. I mean, that's as specific as it gets. And it gets a particular audience coming your way that really like and want to do well. And both, it's a win-win situation for everybody involved.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, really true. I mean, it really helps with marketing, which is the hardest thing when you're running your own business. Knowing who you have to go after is everything, really. But I will add, though, that the last two things that you said, and to follow up on niche, the last two things that you said are most important. You don't have your niche when you first start out, because you have an idea and you stumble your way through it and you get crappy customers and the product doesn't work or you don't like it. And then you start to figure out, oh, well, I should be doing that because of all the problems you've run into. And then when you're 5 and 7 years into it and 10 years into it, everybody says, wow, it looks like you've got this great thing that everybody needs. Well, heck, nobody needed it the first 6 years, right? It's only because of that struggle that you get there. So for those of you listening who are trying to figure out why this thing you might be trying to do isn't working now, it might be because you just really haven't landed on the right idea yet. But you're close, perhaps. Don't surrender the core feeling that you have about the idea, but iterate around it, I think, and you'll probably land into something that works. And then the other thing that you commented on was kind of a comment about what I was saying about our pyramid scheme guys out there. Model the people like you, right? So find real women entrepreneurs that will talk with you. Find people who look like you, feel like you in persona wise, and reach out to them. Those people will respond to you because they will see the same in you. If you then get the sort of feedback that can help you, the world is a much better place, and you'll get much further along in your path when you get that kind of advice. It's like asking your family in a way, hey, Dad, what do you think? They already know you because those people kind of are you. Don't ask the guy with 100,000 LinkedIn followers who's making millions of dollars a minute. He's not going to help you. And he probably isn't making $1 million a year, let alone a minute. Yeah, good advice.
Yeah.
That's very nice, And then, can I have one more question? Like, when you start entrepreneurship, you start from 100% by your own, or you've been doing some full-time job, like a little by there, having the idea, like what's the point, the timeline, like that. I think that also people think like, oh, how I'm gonna start, and then when I'm gonna switch, from zero or something like that.
Yeah, I'll start, and
Go
it
ahead.
was started. Like I said, the seed was planted decades ago. Decades ago. And I remember in high school, I sold knives.
Cool.
Entrepreneurial spirit, even
Really?
though I don't think of myself as a good salesperson at all. And I also remember I worked with my dad, who instilled a lot of ideas about entrepreneurship. I was going to teach math skills to other high school students, middle school students, and that entrepreneurial spirit started a while back. And then when I was working full-time at a great company, that's when everybody kept asking, because I was talking to other employers as well as other employees about the benefits of using Japanese language and cultural skills in a career. Everybody kept asking questions. So I felt that there was a need in Michigan. And then afterwards, and after the pandemic started and you started hearing about other states as well, that's when I realized, no, this is a national thing. I officially started my LLC after I was working full-time. But the blog idea, the articles, the advice, everything was at least 5 years before that. And the idea to become an entrepreneur was decades before that.
That's cool. It's a long journey, right? I was working. I've been working since I was 12, and always wanted to make money. I'm a hustler in that sense. I sold candy in school and whatever the hell I could get out the door to buy a radio or a bicycle.
And yeah, that's cool.
Candy at school, legal candy. Yeah, so the bug is always there, probably in entrepreneurs. You find it. That's why most entrepreneurs who are successful can be, because we're not allowed to kind of bug people, pick up the phone, call people. It's kind of scary, but we do it because we have to. Some people just don't have that, but it's certainly a skill. With this particular company, Reiko and I both had full-time jobs for probably the first 2 years of its incarnation. We were working our rear ends off, getting up very, very early in the morning and going to bed very late at night. And we were translating. Just in the beginning, we were just translating. Then when we decided to build this product, we had even more work on our plate. And we had a mailing list so we had a kind of beginning version of this course. So we translated a book, right? But what we did was we created a minimal viable product. We started creating the grammar modules and materials for the first part of the book, and then sold that idea of a course that hadn't yet even been written or thought of, in a sense. We sold that to the few people that bought it on our mailing list. We had 300 people or so on our translator mailing list. We had 5 people, I think, sign up. And then we were like, it works. Like, people actually bought this thing. So, okay, let's keep going. And I think probably maybe a half a year later, I said to her, I'm not going to teach young kids anymore because my head's going to fall off my body if I try it again another year. So I'm done at the end of the year. And then the following year, she quit her job. And then we've been doing this, I think, full time now for 2 years. It still ain't easy. There's nail biter months, and we're in a promotion period right now. We don't know what's going to happen. But again, it's worth it. And it's affordable to live in Japan. So you can, if you're frugal, you can get by with very little. And we haven't worked for the man in about 2 years. We're quite happy. We have a child. Somehow it works. It's a miracle, really. I don't know.
I think the key is you have to understand it's a long journey. Like, it's not like now start 100% something like that, and having the idea little by little, try now. So it means like there's nothing wrong, correct? But then maybe the best way is have some sort of income, because if you are crazy about the money from day one, maybe you struggle a lot. But if you have something at the side and little by starting, and you have like your mental health situation is a little bit stable about it, then keep going. That might be like more healthy way to start it, I think.
And I'll make a quick comment about that. That's where it's good to freelance, because you can do some gig work on the side to just not only test your idea, but to have some income coming in. So for me, I did some interpreting and translating projects on the side that helped me get through the months as I was brainstorming, because it's a long process and you do have to be prepared. So if you are trying to do this, like if you are working full time and like you are doc on the side early in the morning, late at night, you're planning your idea, your services, that's one way. But eventually your savings will run out, and you have to be careful and be prepared. So you won't know how long it's going to take you. And a lot of times you may just give up right at that point where maybe things could get started. So plan for longer than you would ever envision, but give yourself the opportunity to try. So if you're working full time, you can always squeeze in an hour a day if you have to, no matter how busy you are. Of course, that may not be the healthiest if you're lacking on sleep, but it's possible to do anything that you want to do. Watch less TV, do less scrolling, focus that time on maybe one less evening out, stay in and do something for your dream, because that's going to be so much more joyful and satisfying. And, for me, it's the best thing I've ever done because it's so exciting. But also one more thing that I'll mention is if you are an entrepreneurially minded, but you don't have real work experience, I highly recommend getting a job. because that's you learn, like Doc, you were saying, sales experience, picking up the phone, calling. You have to know how businesses work.
Yeah.
And yes, you can learn a lot on your own before doing it, but working at a company is going to skyrocket your knowledge to get there. So just had to scoop a few more things to.
That's
Absolutely true. And you'll see a lot of the mistakes made in companies that you can avoid later on too. You'll start to develop an opinion as to what works and what doesn't. And that's a really, really valuable experience to see. And hopping around, as much as that's not appreciated by HR people, is very good for you as a future entrepreneur. I'll add one sort of thing that I think is really important too, that I realized in listening to you, is that if you wanted to come to Japan, let's say, and be an entrepreneur, or anywhere really, but if you ever are thinking about leaving America to come to another country, do your utmost to not have any credit card debt before you come here, before you try to be an entrepreneur, because your level of income in Japan will crucify you as far as having to pay your debts back in America. If you want to be an entrepreneur, try not to carry any credit card debt if you can at all, because then you will have the freedom to not feel like you're dying because of the weight of will this thing come through, and that you can kind of skate a little bit. But if you do it by having credit card in the US, even student loan debt is a real pain. It's an albatross that you will be very disappointed to carry around in a foreign country. Something to be aware of. I came here with no debt because of a number of things that I worked on. Use credit counseling, do that sort of stuff. It's very, 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 very beneficial. You can sleep at night when you don't have that hanging over you.
Yes.
That's all I got.
That's great information. I was not thinking about entrepreneurship by myself, but you both have a so great idea. Now it's already convinced me, like, oh,
good.
I want to do that. Yeah.
Good. Start saving now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Great.
All right.
I think, if anybody has any questions, just reach out to us, let us know, and hopefully some of the ideas that we provided kind of inspire you to see that, yes, it's possible to go after your dreams. Just know it's not may not be the easiest thing. And if it is easy, then maybe you need to look into that a little bit. I believe that it just takes patience, time, and a lot of hard work, but it is very, very rewarding. And so hopefully the resources that we shared below also help you. And we look forward to seeing you at a future Shushoku Cafe video. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.